Okay. Hello and welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. My name is Emma and today I am doing the 5 books, 5 questions tag. This is a tag created by Peter Likes Books and it's a really fun, cool, unique discussion idea. It's less of like a tag, like what you usually think of when you hear that word. It's more of a really cool discussion idea. So he just asks you to pick 5 books from your shelf, talk about them, and then pose a question that each of those books makes you think of. So for each question I will set up a poll, it'll appear up there in the corner and you can click on it and vote. And I'm really excited to see what you guys think of the questions because a lot of these are questions that I don't even know how to answer. Some of them I have a really strong idea of the answer and some of them I don't. So I'm just intrigued to see what you guys think. So I've picked my 5 books here. All of these are books that I absolutely loved and all of these left me with a big question to mull over. So the first one is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. This is the story of a family in the 1970s and right at the beginning of the book we find out that the oldest daughter, Lydia, has died, seemingly by suicide, though the family are convinced that there must have been something else going on and they're arguing with the police about it. And we see this family in 2 timelines, both before and after Lydia's death, and we find out all of the secrets that each of the family members were holding. And it's a really, really powerful book. Celeste Ng is an absolutely beautiful writer. I've loved both of her books that I've read so far. Can't wait to see what she does next. And the character, or one of the characters that particularly interested me in this book is the mother. So the mother is rather an unlikable character to many people, though she wasn't to me. So I was really interested when we talked about this one in my book club, how many of the people in my book club really, really hated her and were so angry at her. And I can see why, because she does all sorts of terrible things and she's so harmful. The relationship she has with her daughter is so damaging. So yes, I was really, really angry with her. But there is a key part in this book where the mother, Marilyn, years and years ago, we see her do something very, very selfish. I'm not going to go too into it because obviously I want you all to read this book and I don't want to give away the plot lines. But she makes a very big decision which is entirely selfishly motivated and completely does not consider her children or the effect that it might have on them. It essentially just wipes her responsibility of being their mother. And that scene was the one that most of the people in my book club were really, really fixed on as why they hated her so much, because they viewed that as a completely morally reprehensible thing to do. And I was really interested, why am I not thinking this? Why am I empathising with her so much when everybody hates her so much? And I think a lot of it probably stems from the fact that I have a lot of anxieties around being a mother. I don't have children. The thought of having children absolutely terrifies me. I feel like I want to have children, but that level of responsibility and selflessness that is required of you as a parent and particularly as a mother, like that society puts on you particularly as a mother, absolutely terrifies me. And I think that's why I empathised with her so much in this book, making the decision that essentially that she regretted it, that she wanted to take it back. And so the question that I want to pose to you is, are you allowed to change your mind about being a mother? Once you have children, is it ever forgivable to put yourself entirely above them? Going right in there with the big questions. And as well as voting the poll, do leave your answers like more expanded on below, because I'll be interested in people who've read the book, who know what I'm talking about, what they thought of her in that moment. Book number 2 is The Power by Naomi Alderman. So this book imagines what would happen if women suddenly got a power over men. In this book, it's an electricity that literally causes them to physically overpower men, when throughout history we've always been physically more vulnerable to men. If that got overturned, what would happen? And it imagines the next few years and generations after that power awakens in women to see what would happen. And it's a very violent book and it imagines women doing all of the same terrible things to men that men have historically done to women, which I thought was absolutely fascinating and made it a very uncomfortable read, because much as I don't enjoy being the oppressed half of society or reading books that show us to be the oppressed one, it's very uncomfortable to suddenly read a book in which you are the oppressor and to find yourself in the shoes of the person being powerful and abusing their power and sort of scarily relating to it while at the same time not wanting to. It's very uncomfortable and really, really good. It's been quite a divisive book. I know a lot of people who did not like it at all. I absolutely loved it and it made me feel empowered, but like not necessarily in a good way, because it does get really violent and horrible. So it wasn't like, yay, feminist utopia at all. But my question to pose to you is, essentially, are men and women inherently different in that if there was a matriarchy, would it be any different from the patriarchy. After reading this book especially, I think I know what I think, but cast your vote and I'd be very interested to hear your reasons. The next book is We Need to Talk About Kevin by Lionel Shriver. So this book, oh my goodness, so disturbing, but really good. So this is the story of a school massacre, a high school massacre, but told through the eyes of the mother of the murderer, who was a student at the school. And it's all written through letters to her estranged husband, talking about their joint raising of this child, Kevin, and what they think they did wrong. And a really, really strong theme running throughout the book is nature versus nurture. And the book doesn't take a firm stance, and I really want to read it again, because I feel like every time I read it, I will come to a slightly different conclusion. I don't even know which is the more terrifying option, you know? Is it more terrifying to think that you might just have a child who is an aggressive murderer, or that this might happen and that you have to admit that it's your fault in some way? Both equally terrifying. I thought this book did a really, really fantastic job of arguing both sides of the debate. You could interpret it 100% one side or the other, just depending on how you were feeling when you read it or the context that you went into this book with. So my question to you lot is, do you think that nature or nurture are more powerful in influencing our actions? Book number 4 is The Space Between Us by Thriti Umrigar. So this is a very, very sad story about two women living in India, living very different lives. So there is Sarah, this very rich widow, and there is Bhima, who cleans Sarah's house and washes the glasses that she's not even allowed to drink from. She's not allowed to sit on any of the furniture that she cleans from her. They come from very different classes and are kept separate. But these two do find that they have some shared experiences of womanhood. So Sarah, for example, was in an abusive marriage, and there are these shared gender experiences that the two of them learn to bond over. But there is always, as the title suggests, a space between us. And so my question, this is a difficult one to phrase, is essentially to do with privilege. Can two people from such different ends of the scale of privilege find solidarity, or is it always going to be unequal? So I guess I'll put multiple answers in there. There's either, yes, they can absolutely find solidarity just through nature of their shared gender experience, or there is, yes, they can find solidarity to an extent, but it's really important to consider they come from different backgrounds, and so it's always going to be unequal. One of them is always going to have power over the other, and therefore can't expect solidarity in return. Or you might say that because of that they actually can't find solidarity at all, even to any extent, beyond the very, very basic sharing of certain experiences they have of being a woman together. But their experiences of being women are so vastly different that solidarity can't really exist. Those are the 3 options. What do you think? No one said these questions were going to be easy. And finally, we have Beartown by Fredrik Backman. So this takes place in a small town in Sweden, and it is about a school hockey team and the toxic masculinity and essentially rape culture that is born out of that environment. And it's really, really compelling and powerful and upsetting, and I love it. It's a fantastic book. But my question is, slightly broadening out a bit, will small close-knit communities, like a small town or a sports team or anything like that, will those communities inherently breed a closed-minded group mentality way of thinking, or can it be avoided? And if you think it can be avoided, then please comment below how. Because this book leaves space for either answer of that. And it is a hopeful book, ultimately, despite being really sad. But it left me really questioning, practically, what can we do? Because those types of small communities are going to exist anywhere. Even if you go to a big city, it's just kind of human nature that we form those small communities. But it does lead to rather insular thinking. And so, is that inherent? Is it just unavoidable? Or is there a way we can move past it? And if so, what? Wow, what a question! I'm basically just asking you guys big questions that I don't know the answers for, so that you can help me influence how I'm supposed to think. For example, I guess BookTube, that's a community, and definitely has been guilty of hive mind mentality. What can we do about it? You tell me. I don't know. I'm not going to answer it. That's your job. So thank you to Peter Likes Books for creating that tag. Really, really good one. I really enjoyed doing that. And I'm going to tag some people, but basically, I didn't get tagged in this, I just did it. So if you want to do it, just do it. A few people that I would be really interested in seeing this tag would be Zoe from Read by Zoe, Emma Tobias, Angelica Cofer, and Jean from Jean's Bookish Thoughts. I would love to see your guys' take on this and answer your questions, but I would love to see anyone's, and just leave me a comment letting me know if you did it, and then I will go over and reply to your questions. So for now, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button below for new videos every week. See you next time.